In the last few years I've been doing it, it's been about convincing people that anyone could be an adventurer. The great thing about wild camping is you get to pick a view and then make your own room. Hi, I'm Phoebe Smith. I'm an adventurer and author, and you join me in Glencoe with Blacks as we prepare to spend the night sleeping on a mountain summit and share stories of my adventures of a life spent outdoors. So I grew up in North Wales, in an area that the national press kind of called the Costa del Dol, because a lot of people signing on and on benefits. And it was a lovely place to grow up, quite close to Snowdonia National Park, but I never went, really. I didn't know anything about wild camping, never heard of that, and I didn't think I was particularly fit or capable of doing it. Also, when I grew up, it was very much seen as a boy's or a man's thing to do, to go out and have adventures and go into the outdoors. And through various situations, I found myself travelling to Australia, and I was asked to go and do a wild camp in the Red Centre. And all I had with me was what they call a swag, which is basically a rollaway bed. And before I got into bed that night, we had a guide with us, and he told us all the things we should be on the lookout for because they could kill us. And I remember I had an incredible night. The wildlife came really close. The sun set and cast all these beautiful shadows on the rocks. And the stars came out in a way I'd never seen before in my life, and the sunrise felt like it was just for me. And I thought, how come I'm prepared to do this here, but I've never done this back home in the UK? So when I got back home, I decided I was going to become a tourist in my own backyard, and I was going to go back to the places that I'd been to or knew about as a child but never explored. And it started for me in Snowdonia National Park. There's just something really special to me about wild camping. It's the freedom that it offers, that you get to choose where you pitch a tent, you get to wake up and there's no one else around for miles. It's the peace, the utter peace and quiet and the wildlife. First of all, go somewhere you know, go with friends, you don't have to go on your own, and just try and enjoy it and have an escape route. I would say recce it first in the day, know how you can get out quickly. If the weather turns, you can go, you don't have to stick it out. Tell someone you're going, make sure you've got the kit you need to keep warm. One of the biggest problems is staying warm. My motto for wild camping and for life really is enjoy, not endure. And for me, it's got to be about the good things about stuff. So, if you go and something doesn't feel right, do it another day. It's okay, the mountains will still be there. Anyone definitely can wild camp. So a lot of people ask me how I became the kind of woman who likes to dangle from cliffs and sleep suspended from rocks and then just pitch up on a mountain summit. Because it's not normal, it's not what everyone decides they want to do. Once I did it, and I did it on my own, and I felt that sense of freedom, and I got to fall asleep in front of a wild lake in the middle of the mountains and wake up, seeing the sun rise. The mountains is my headboard and the grass is my mattress. I was just addicted instantly, and I'll never forget my first wild camp. Everything went wrong. So I got eaten alive by midges, I got chased by sheep, I got really badly sunburnt, and when I got back to my car at the end, I had this huge grin on my face and this confidence in my eyes that I just had never seen before, and I just knew then I was an instant addict. The more I did it, the more I wanted to do it, and I ended up just getting addicted, I would say, and I became the first person to camp at all the extreme points of mainland Britain by myself on consecutive nights. And the more I did that, the more I wanted to do something with it for good. So I started raising money for charity, for a young people's homeless charity. And the first thing I did was I slept the 3 peaks. So I gave up my Christmas and camped on the top of Snowdon, Scarfell Pike, and ended Christmas Eve on Ben Nevis. So woke up to a white Christmas. Then I did something called the Extreme Sleep Out, where I took portaledge tents. So these are the ones usually used by climbers who climb the routes on the big walls, and got permission to sleep dangling off 10 different UK landmarks. So from sea cliffs in Scotland to skyscrapers in London, over Gapingill Cave, a 98-metre drop cave in Yorkshire, and ended at the Spinnaker Tower. And it was just the most incredible adventure. And the triple of that one was me dressing up as Wonder Woman and walking the width of mainland Britain and wild camping on my own on the way in a bivvy bag. And by doing all those things, I raised over £40,000 for charity. So I really believe that adventure can be a force for good. After doing a lot of my fundraising for charity, I really wanted to do more about getting the message out there to young people who, like me, had felt adventure wasn't something that could be in their lives. And I ended up meeting a fellow adventurer called Dwayne Field.
What's the weather like?
Perfect. Nice and sunny.
Dwayne as a black man, me as a woman and from the area I'm from, and him from Hackney, an area where people don't tend to go off on adventures. We realised so for very different reasons and with very different life stories, we had hit that similar kind of glass ceiling, and people telling us that because of where we were from or because of something that we couldn't actually help, that we couldn't, wouldn't or shouldn't do something. So we said, well, why don't we work together and spread that word that like it really is anyone can do this. And that's where Team We2 was born as an idea. And we said, what if we could use what we do to take a group of underprivileged young people from across Britain and go and have the adventure of a lifetime. And that's when we started the We2 Foundation. When we were trying to fundraise, we were told, you're only dealing with underprivileged young people, just take them to Dartmoor. They don't need to go anywhere like Antarctica. And our whole point was that Antarctica is seen as the place for the privileged few. If you look at the historical figures who conquered Antarctica, they all have pretty much the same things in common, that they tend to be white, older males who have maybe been ex-military and are upper class. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not saying that they shouldn't have done it. It's saying that we all can do it. We too should be able to have that opportunity. So that was our mission, to take them to Antarctica. We couldn't get fundraising going at first, so we decided we were going to do an Antarctic in the UK expedition. So myself and Dwayne gave up our Christmases, and at the end of 2019 we walked from the northernmost point of Britain to the southernmost point, so Dunnet Head in Scotland to Lizard Point in Cornwall. It took 40 days, we wild camped the entire way, and we carried everything on wheeled sleds, so that's how it made it sort of Antarctic. People would offer us to stay with them and we refused. We were like, no, we've got to sleep outside. We probably had, it was -8, which felt like -15 in the Cairngorms. That was the coldest part of it. And Christmas Day was actually the warmest and most beautiful day that we saw on the whole trip. But by doing that, we raised about £14,000, which kick-started the whole thing. The nature and the outdoors, we know it's been proven, it's good for our mental health, it's good for our physical health, and obviously it's good for wildlife, and it's good for the planet. The problem is we need people to fall in love with it so that they want to protect it, because why would you want to protect something that you don't care about? And so I really believe adventure is the way that you do that, because once you take someone and it's the backdrop for some of the most memorable experiences, they suddenly become an advocate for it, an ambassador for it. And you know, for me, the reason I love working with young people is because they really are the future. And they are the ones who are driving, you know, the green agenda. They are the ones who are big on sustainability. Education to young people about how to be in the outdoors responsibly is really key. And that's something I really think they should start putting within schools, teaching people how to look after it and see it as fun, not just a serious place for serious things. It should be about fun and having an adventure. For me, getting to adventures has become more sustainable. I get the train whenever I can, or I'll get a boat if I'm heading over to Europe or overseas, and become mindful of, you know, the kit I use and repairing kit and reusing kit, sharing it, and just making all those choices. You know, walking and camping are pretty low impact activities, but we can make it even more low impact by the way that we get to it. In the last few years I've been doing it, it's been about convincing people that anyone could be an adventurer, because I wish someone had told me that when I was young, and I wish people had realised that it feels like a superpower when you're doing it, but actually it's a superpower we all have within our reach. And I said if I could bottle the feeling I get from going out there on my own and wild camping and sell it, I would definitely be a rich woman.